أكبر الله أكبر
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. My dear respected mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, we begin with the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we thank Him for allowing us to see another Jum'ah. We thank Him for inviting us to His house so that we can worship Him, we can fulfill His commandments. We thank Him for the blessings of Iman. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the blessings of life, of health, of wealth, of our families, of our friends. Walillahi alhamd. Alhamdulillah, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of these blessings that we have. And the trials and the tests that we face remind us of the blessings that we have, and they teach us to value those blessings. Because one way or another, whether we can see it or not, every single person here today is being tested. Some people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing them with giving them something. Whether it's wealth, whether it's health, whether it's respect in society, whether it's children, whatever it may be, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing certain people by giving them something to see if they will be thankful, to see if they'll use those blessings to come closer to Him Azza wa Jal, or to see if they'll take those blessings and attribute it to themselves, to see if they'll take those blessings and turn away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And on the flip side, if someone is not of that first category, then they're of the second category. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing them by taking away something. Whether it's the loss of a job, whether it's the loss of a family member, whether it's the loss of their house, whatever it may be. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from such a test. But rest assured, every single person is being tested in one form or another. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Ankabut, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alif Lam لام ميم أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون ولقد فتنا الذين من قبلهم فليعلمن الله الذين صدقوا وليعلمن الكاذبين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Alif Lam Mim, do people think that they will be left to simply say, Amanna? Do they think that they'll just be able to say, we believe, and that we will not put them to test? Yet certainly we have tested all those who came before them. Then Allah shall most surely distinguish those who speak the truth about their belief and those who are liars. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that each and every one of us is going to be tested. Why? Because we're amongst those who say we believe. So it's not just enough, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, it's not just enough for us to bear witness to His oneness. It's not just enough for us to bear witness that the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam delivered the message, that we bear witness to His message, but that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to test us to see just how much we believe. Just how much we're willing to put our faith in Him when it seems like there's nothing else going for us. We know the Prophet ﷺ told us that those who are closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are those who will be tested the most. We know that the Prophet alayhi salam, the Anbiya alayhi salam, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, peace be upon all of them, that they were tested the most. And if we look throughout our own history, the history of this ummah, we see those who were closest to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam were those who were tested the most. Companions like Abu Bakr and Bilal, radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma. So we're going to be tested, it's going to be difficult, but at the same time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us mercy. And He tells us, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها, that Allah does not test a soul beyond that which it can bear. So we're going to be tested. We've already been told by our Creator. We've already been told by the one who knows us better than we know ourselves that we have the ability to pass that test. And the only reason that you got such a difficult test, the only reason that you got such a difficult trial is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already knows that you have the ability to deliver, that you have the ability to carry that load. If we didn't have that ability, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not have sent that test. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us that as we're going through these tribulations, that we already know we have the ability to bear, not to look back at the past and say, if only I had done such and such thing, if only I had changed something along the way. The Prophet ﷺ said, فَإِنْ أَصَابَكَ شَيْءٌ فَلَا تَقُلْ لَوْ أَنِّي فَعَلْتُ كَذَا وَكَذَا وَلَكِنْ قُلْ قَدَّرُ اللَّهُ وَمَا شَاءَ فَعَلَهُ فَإِنَّ لَوْ تَفْتَحُ عَمَلَ الشَّيْطَانِ. Or كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام, رواه Muslim. That Abu Hurairah narrates that the Prophet ﷺ once said to the closest meaning, that if you are afflicted in any way, do not say, if I had done this or that, I wouldn't be in this situation. But instead say, Allah has decreed, and whatever He wills, He does. And indeed, the word if opens the doors to the actions of shaitan, to the actions of Iblis. Imam Nawawi rahimahullah, he says in his commentary of this hadith, that in case someone meets trials or troubles or tribulations, that person should exercise patience and show submission and obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the proper way to deal with a trial when they receive it, instead of saying if. And he says that because this saying of lo, this saying if only I had done this or that, it provides a chance for shaitan to mislead the person. It provides shaitan with a chance to take that person out of the fold of Islam, to cause that person to lose hope in the mercy and the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Imam Nawawi is telling us to know that whatever happened was written long before we were born, and that is what came to pass. And that what happened, what occurred, the tribulation or the trial that we found ourselves in, is the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we look at the lives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the companions, May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with each and every one of them. We see many examples of these difficulties and these tests. And we see that through the difficulties that they went through, we see many blessings and we see many benefits come into their lives. But today I wanted to pick a different story outside of the life of the Prophet ﷺ. So I found the example of Ayyub alayhi salam. Now Ayyub alayhi salam, he was from the descendants of Ibrahim alayhi salam. He was a nephew of Yaqub alayhi salam. And he was sent to the people of Palestine. And like all the prophets before him and after him, when he first came with his message, when he first began his mission, he had very few followers. Now Ayyub alayhi salam, Job, his biblical name is Job, he was granted the best of this world. He was granted wealth, he was granted a large family, he was granted obviously prophethood, so he had status amongst his people, he was considered a noble person, and he lived like this, in this luxury, in this bliss for 60 to 70 years. And throughout this time, he was humble, he was thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the blessings that he received. He had a large farms, he had abundant cattle, he had valuable property, but none of these things that he had made him arrogant. None of these things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him with made him boastful. But after 60 to 70 years passed, we see in his story that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes away these blessings one by one. His wealth was stolen. His farm was attacked by a gang of thieves. They killed his servants, they stole his cattle. He had his family taken away from him. The roof of his house fell, many of his children died. Those that survived, one by one, he saw them all pass away. His health, we know, was removed. He had leprosy or some kind of rotting of the skin that left ulcers and sores that were open, visible on his face and his arms and the rest of his body. So he had everything. And slowly, even though he's the Prophet of Allah, he lost each and every one of those blessings. And yet throughout all of it, he was patient. Every time one of his children passed away, he wouldn't complain. Instead, he'd say, we all belong to Allah. Whatever He has given to us was always His. If He took it away, then it has returned. Whatever was taken away, in this case a child, the child has returned to the one it always belonged to. He was a prophet. He obviously went out and called people to the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The people that followed him, the people that believed in him, they began to talk about him. They began to see what was happening to him and they'd stay away. You know, they'd see the sores and whatever was open on his skin, so they think it's contagious, they'd want to stay away. And even though he was their prophet, instead of assuming good of him, they assumed that he had done something that had caused Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be angry with him, quote unquote. So throughout all of this, he lost his status, he lost his wealth, he lost his family, he didn't complain. He stayed patient, he held fast to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then approximately 6 to 7 years, either his wife or some of the people, they came to him. And they said, you are a prophet. You are the messenger of Allah. Ask Allah to remove your condition. Now when they said this to him, he became very upset with them because he had totally surrendered to the will of Allah. He was completely content with whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was going to grant him. So he said, I lived 70 years of bliss. I lived 70 years when I had everything. And I've just experienced these trials for 7 years. I won't complain to Allah. I won't ask Allah to change my condition until I've experienced 70 years of this. Now, that's not to say that we should not make dua to Allah, but Ayyub alayhi salam was on a different level. So he said that I received so much from Allah, 70 years of everything from Allah, and I've just experienced 7 years of trial, only 10% of that time. That I'm not going to go and complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about this, considering everything He's given me azza wa jalla. So due to his condition, he wasn't able to work. He couldn't go out and farm the land, so his wife had to support them. So the people would hire his wife to come and do something, and that's how she would support their family, the two of them. But after a while, people stopped hiring his wife. So one day, after she had been unemployed, she came home with a platter of food. Ayyub alayhi salam asked her, where did this food come from? She avoided the question. So that food, it lasted them a couple days, and then it ran out. So she went out again and she came back with some more food. And this time Ayyub alayhi salam, again he asked, where did this food come from? Then she told him that she had cut off her hair, that she had shaved her hair and sold it and traded that for the food. So seeing his wife like this, seeing her bald, Ayyub alayhi salam, then he called upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala records this in Surah Anbiya when he says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وأيوب إذ نادى ربه أني مسني الضر وأنت أرحم الراحمين. He said, O Allah, adversity has touched me and you are the most merciful of those who show mercy. Who was that adversity that he received from? Who controls what happens to mankind? Who created good and evil? We all know the answer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created all of those things. But note, Ayyub alayhi salam, he didn't attribute the adversity that he was going through. He didn't attribute the problems that he was going through to Allah. This is the etiquette and the adab that he showed with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He didn't blame Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the situation that he was in. Rather, instead he said, adversity has touched me, it just came upon me. But then he attributes the help that he is going to read bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. He shows that he's asking the help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he asked for Allah's help. And then what happened? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he answered his dua. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered him to move his leg, or ordered him to strike the ground with his leg, and a spring gushed forth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered him to drink from that spring and said that it's going to be a cure for you. Now that was a spring for Ayyub alayhi salam. We also have a spring. In the summary of a hadith that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told us, that Zamzam is for whatever intention that it is drunk with. So when we're sick, we learn from the Prophet ﷺ that we should go ahead and drink Zamzam, but drink it with the intention that, Ya Allah, I have this sickness, I have a fever, I have a cold, na'udhu billah, I have cancer, I have heart disease, I have high blood pressure, whatever it is, that we drink it with the intention that this Zamzam that was provided to Ibrahim alayhi salam, that was provided to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, that in it there is a cure, that, Ya Allah, I'm drinking this with complete yaqeen, with complete conviction and faith that by drinking this, I'm going to be cured. So Ayyub alayhi salam, he drank that water from that spring, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala returned everything to him. And not only did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala return everything that he had lost to him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increased him in it. So we see that Ayyub alayhi salam was patient throughout everything that he went through, that he was thankful regardless of what his situation was, and we see that at the end of the day, in the long game, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not only returned everything to him, but then increased him in it. So what do we learn from the story of Ayyub alayhi salam? And I remind myself first and foremost, that the trials that we experience, the difficulties that we go through in life, they bring us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That when we go through a difficulty, we're more focused on our salah. That we're more particular about praying on time. That we actually set our alarms to wake up for tahajjud. That those trials bring us closer to Allah. They're a means of forgiveness for us. No one here is a prophet. No one here is ma'asum, so we all know that we're all going to transgress the boundaries that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set. And the trials that we go through, they're a means for us to be forgiven. That we go through difficulty here so that we don't have to go through difficulty on the Day of Judgment, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. That the trials that we go through, they're a reminder to us that no matter how much we plan, no matter how well we think about things in advance and set them up for us, that at the end of the day, everything is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That we put forth our best effort, but after that, we leave it to Allah. So sometimes we lose focus, that we begin to rely on ourselves. That I've done everything, that's why I have everything that I have. That I went to school, I studied hard, I got good grades. That's why I have a good job, that's why I made a lot of money. What we go through when we lose that job, when we fail that test, is that everything is in the hands of Allah. And the trials that we go through, they remind us and they add sincerity to our dua, because dua from an inattentive heart is not accepted. So when we are going through difficulty, when we've tried everything that we possibly can to get out of that situation and we're still stuck, that then we turn to Allah, that, oh Allah, I've tried everything. Nothing I've tried is working. I've called everyone that I know. No one can help me get a job. I've tried everything. You, Allah, are the only one that can provide a way out of this for me. You are the only one who provides rizq. You are the only one who's going to put food on my family's table tonight. So they remind us to add sincerity to our dua. And the trials that we go through teach us the values of the blessings that we have. Blessings that we might take for granted. The blessing of not having a toothache. Think about that. We have a toothache, how annoying is that? You don't have a toothache, alhamdulillah. Whatever it may be. I want to close here with the summary of a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ called Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. And he said, let me advise you. So he advised Abdullah radiallahu anhu, remember Allah in good times, and in adversity Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be quick in His response to you. Remember that whatever afflicted you, whatever hit you, could never have avoided you. And remember that whatever missed you, whatever thing that missed you, could never have afflicted you. And know that victory is in patience. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us amongst those who can remember the advice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and act upon that advice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, and by extension to all of us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to alleviate any difficulties we may be facing, difficulties that we reveal to our friends and the ones that we've kept hidden. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to alleviate the difficulties this ummah is facing, whether it's in Seen, whether it's in Barwa, whether it's Hind, Kashmir, Syria, Palestine, Yemen, Sudan, Africa, and the forgotten corners of the world. Allahumma ameen. Before the khutbah, I overheard a sister. She said she's saving up to go for Hajj. We asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow her to go for Hajj this year. Allahumma ameen. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وقال ربكم ادعوني أستجب لكم إن الذين يستكبرون عن عبادتي سيدخلون جهنم داخرين. بارك الله لنا ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعنا وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم. فاستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له. ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا بين يدي الساعة. من يطع الله ورسوله فقد رشد ومن يعصهما فإنه لا يضر إلا نفسه ولا يضر الله شيئا. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وصل على المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات وبارك على محمد وأزواجه وذريته. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروني أذكركم واشكروا لي ولا تكفرون. أقيموا الصلاة.